Ladies and gentlemen, the man I am speaking to is sometimes known by a single name, Kramer. His name is Kenny Kramer. He's down in Key West, Florida right now. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be here. How you doing?
Great. How's Key West?
Key West is a happening place, my friend. Place is mobbed with people celebrating life, I guess, or something, or the drugs they found. I don't know, but everybody seems to be having fun.
Who is the real Kenny Kramer?
That's a good question. I wish I could give you a quick answer to it, but I guess I am. You know, the fact that Larry David, my old buddy, lived across the hall from me for a number of years and decided to base a character on me in a TV show called Seinfeld. The rest is history.
Take us back a little bit. What were your parents like? What was life like at home?
Well, nobody in my family was ever in show business. It was like a total anomaly when I decided that I'm going to get into that business. People were just, how could you do that? You know, that's, what are you going to do? And, you know, I started off as a musician, actually. I was a percussionist. And then I one day realized that, like, this is a lot of work. The playing part is a lot of fun, but the schlepping drums is really a pain in the neck. So I switched and I decided I'd become a comedian. And I just got into doing stand-up in the early 70s. Made my living as a stand-up comedian for about 15 years or so. Really enjoyed it. I still kind of do it to this day.
Was there a comedian or a few comedians that influenced you the most?
Oh, absolutely. People like Lenny Bruce and George Carlin, and, you know, mostly political satirists. I like comics that, like, not just were just funny, but were also saying something. And, you know, I was very influenced by that school of comedy as opposed to zany comedy or observational comedy. You know, not that those aren't valid things, but political commentary, always sort of interests me, and I always leaned in that direction.
As you just said, you've done a lot of things in your life. You're an eclectic kind of guy. You've done stand-up comedy, you still do. You managed a British reggae band. You created electronic jewelry. You've run for political office, and you've been the host of Kramer's Reality Tour and Kramer's Reality Roadshow. So what has been your favorite gig?
Well, they're all fun for one reason or another, but the stage show that I do is probably my favorite because it's taken me to some pretty interesting places. I've toured all over Australia and Canada, and, you know, I get to do a lot of traveling and meeting people all over the world. And, you know, Seinfeld's in 90 countries, so, and such diverse countries you can't imagine, like in Korea and Norway and Argentina and Peru and Germany and everything. It's amazing how the show is so universally popular. And so I enjoy the travel. And then, of course, in the summertime, I do the reality tour, which is a show for science. I do an hour stand-up in the theater telling all the stories behind the stories and all the things that happened in real life, how they ended up becoming episodes and adventures on Seinfeld. And then there's a bus component where I take everybody on a bus to sites they famous on Seinfeld, with a stop for soup at the Soup Nazi Kitchen and a photo opportunity up at the restaurant that you see on Seinfeld every episode. And it's been going on now, believe it or not, 16 years. The longest I've ever done anything in my life. But it's a lot of fun, and I do it on a limited basis, only in warm weather. I'm there from Memorial Day to Labor Day, generally. And then I come back Thanksgiving to New Year's. If any of your listeners are fans of Seinfeld, they're coming to New York, I guarantee they'll have a great time. And if you just go to my website at kennykramer.com, that's the way to get in on it.
And again, that website is kennykramer.com. Maybe you have a favorite memory from doing these tours, maybe an encounter you've had with somebody, or, I don't know, whatever it may be. I was hoping you could tell us.
Oh, well, there's so many things. You know, I get to meet people from all over the world. But a few months ago when I was doing the tour, I had a very humbling experience. I'll tell you what happened. You know, I take the bus and we go up to Tom's Restaurant, which is the restaurant that you know, the plot thickens every week where the cast is sitting, you know, in Tom's Restaurant. But you never see Tom's. It's called Monks on the show. And so I have a photo opportunity up there where I have my picture taken with everybody. You know, I pose everybody who wants. And of course, we take the picture of the restaurant in the background. And so it's a lot of fun for people to have a great souvenir, you know, being on the tour, being in New York, being up at the famous Seinfeld restaurant. And then after I take all these individual pictures with people, I ask everyone to come together and I take a group picture and I put that picture on my website. Well, after we take the group picture, you know, people are getting back on the bus and I kind of lay back and say hello to a few people and you know, kind of kid around a little bit. And so lots of times, like, you know, people who would be passing by, happen to be passing by, would recognize me, you know, that I'm such a big shot celebrity, but my picture's all over the bus. So, you know, they know, oh, that's Kramer, you know. And then people will ask me if I, you know, they could have a picture, and I would take a picture with anybody who wants. I mean, you know, I'm flattered anybody would want my picture. So I'm doing a tour, and we take the group picture, and people are getting back on the bus, and a few minutes later, these three girls, all excited, come running over and say, "Will you take a picture?" And I said, "I'd be happy to." They hand me the camera. They had no idea. They just wanted me to take a picture of them. So I thought that was quite humbling.
I was going to ask you also about what you talked about earlier, living across the way there from Larry David. Do you have any memories from those years?
Oh, yeah. Larry and I lived across the hall from each other for about 6 years. Just like it was on the Seinfeld set, the last two apartments at the end of the corridor facing each other. And during the time we lived across the hall from each other, that a number of things that happened in our lives ended up becoming episodes, adventures, storylines on Seinfeld. But, of course, at the time these things are happening, you know, in your right mind, you never think that anything you did on a particular day, the whole world is going to find out about. I never dreamed the world would find out. There was a couple of days there when I was planning to build levels in my apartment, you know, little things like that, you know, that I realized I turned on Seinfeld and said, wow, how did Larry ever remember that? But it seems that he'd been taking notes while he lived across the hall from me. He had a lot of things that happened to us that we did that ended up as stories on Seinfeld, and I was talking about 10, 15 years later. So it was pretty amazing.
Up to date, has there been a favorite era of your life?
I think the present. You can't really go back. I just really enjoy the life that I lead now, doing the tour and traveling a good deal. I have a partner who's a musician, singer, and entertainer, and she gets to work on cruise ships, luxury cruise ships, and I get to go along for the ride lots of times. And we're actually on our way to Brazil. We're sailing next week, and we'll go around the Caribbean for a while, through the Panama Canal to Costa Rica, and back through the canal and on down to Rio, where we'll be there for Carnival. So I don't know if it get more exciting than that. So I guess the favorite part of my life is today.
So how did you two meet?
We actually met online 10 years ago. In the early days of social networking, we socially networked each other, and we've been together 10 years now.
I want to take you back to when you were a single man. What did you look for in a woman?
A sense of humor. Well, of course, the physical thing has to be there before you get to step two. But I always enjoy a woman that's got a good sense of humor. I love to laugh, and I love to make people laugh, and I think that's the best you can do. Somebody that's smart, has a sense of humor, and likes to laugh. That's an ideal woman to me.
The man we're talking to is Kenny Kramer. You can visit him online at kennykramer.com. What is the Kenny Kramer philosophy?
I guess I'd have to say, you know, live each day and have as much fun as you possibly can. Live each day like it's going to be the last day of your life. Because eventually one of these days will be.
Yeah, well put. What is the best thing about being Kenny Kramer?
First of all, I'm just blessed that I have my health. You know, that's everything, man. If you don't have that, you got nothing. So I think the best thing is that I'm healthy and, you know, I'm energetic and athletic and ready to travel. I guess it doesn't get better than that.
Do you have any schemes or plans on the horizon?
Well, no, just to continue doing my shows, the Kramer Reality Tour, which I'm going to do from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and Kramer on Seinfeld, and certainly if any of your listeners book theaters, colleges, corporate events, there's a special website called KramerOnSeinfeld.com that talks all about my stage show, and I'm just going to continue living my life and having a good time.
There's a lot of great places to eat in New York. Maybe you could give the listeners a heads up where they should go and what they should get.
Well, of course, New York City is like, the capital of restaurant, dining, communications, fashion. It depends on the cuisine, but I'll give a hint. 9th Avenue between 34th Street and 57th Street has become an international food court. Every cuisine you can imagine is represented along there. There are like 8 restaurants at each side of the street. That's on 9th Avenue. And that's where New Yorkers go. A lot of people, once you get over toward Times Square, prices are like doubled. But 9th Avenue, just take a walk down the street and anything you can imagine, Turkish, French, Italian, Greek, there's no cuisine that's not represented there by at least 2 or 3 restaurants. And so that would be my advice. And if people could get there the 3rd week in May, they have the 9th Avenue Food Festival, which is a weekend festival, the 3rd weekend in May, in which a couple of million people walk through 9th Avenue. And all these restaurants I mentioned are out on the curb with samples of their cuisine, and it's just a great day in New York.
The great thing about technology is, in addition to just being on the radio, we have the ability to have listeners all over the world who listen in online. So, for my last question, for anyone who's listening, wherever they are, what would you like to say to them?
Oh, just, have a good time, enjoy your lives, somebody told me something a long time ago, a piece of advice they gave me. And that is, especially to young people, I tell young people all the time, find something that you love to do. And if you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Mr. Kramer, thank you very much for this interview.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Take care. Any of your listeners that want to visit me at KennyKramer.com, there's a link there to send me an email, and I answer all my own emails. So I'd like to hear from some of your listeners.
All right. Well, thanks so much, and have fun in Key West.
Okay, thanks. Take care. Thanks for calling. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.